Okay, we're going to start the dismantling now. And I always have some kind of a container to put the parts in. I like this little $2 magnetic dish because you don't want to lose any of these parts. The first thing that we take off is the thumb screw. And different than the 4 and 500 slant-o-matics, this doesn't have any little dinky tiny losable screw. It's got a pin on the back that goes into the tension dial. So with the you can put the pressure bar down and just turn the thumb screw all the way left, and then just take your thumbnails and just kind of push that dial in against the spring, and you will see that the pin is clear, and then you can just turn it. Now don't let that jump off on you. So that's all you do to take the thumb screw off. And hopefully you can see that little pin right there. That's what goes into a hole on the tension dial. And one of the things that I really like about the tension system of the 301. Now the rest of these parts are just going to slide off. We'll take the little tension dial, which I believe these are aluminum painted. That's the little number dial, 0 to 9. And then the little stop washer, okay, with its little pointy finger. On the 400 and 500s and up, they didn't use this little pointy finger anymore. The finger just goes straight up. Okay, I got to remember where that is. Then the next thing that's going to come off is the tension spring itself. That's what pushes back against the tension disc to provide tension. It's also called the beehive spring, and I have heard of it referred to as the pyramid spring. Next is the tension indicator. It's another little aluminum part. Slides right off. You can see it's got a center bar across there, and that's so that it will slide onto the tension stud and then stay in place. It can't turn left or right as you're turning the thumb nut. And it's called the indicator because it indicates left is less tension, the minus, and the right is plus tension, the plus sign, or more tension. So if you turn the knob left, less tension. Turn the knob right, more tension. Now the next 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces come off as a kind of as a group because they're assembled that way. And we're going to take this thread guard and the 2 axial tension discs that put tension on the thread, and the check spring. And it's just all going to slide right off together. Just like that. So here's the thread guard. And here is one of the tension discs. And here's the other tension disc. And here is the check spring. And now you have disassembled the tension unit. Pretty easy, right? So normally this is what you'd be looking at on your machine. And since I just purchased this and haven't really inspected all the parts and stuff, I'm going to just remove the tension stud. And inside the tension stud, going through the casting of the machine, and going up against a lever is a tension releasing pin. It's like a little nail. And then there's a tension releasing lever that when you lift the presser foot and the presser bar, you're also moving this little lever inside here, right? And that pushes the pin against the like the indicator, and that squeezes the spring together so that you release tension. So hopefully, if you buy a used unit like me, it will include the tension releasing pin. Now I'm going to take the stud out because I want to take a look at it and clean it. And you know how to do that. We'll just put our good screwdriver into the tension stud set screw and go back lefty-loosey and release that pin. Release the stud. So there's a better look at the tension stud that everything is assembled onto. And inside there is a little tension releasing pin. See, it's sticking out of the bottom there. So we don't want to lose that. So if it will come out, go ahead and shake it out. You know, if you're cleaning this and can be sticky in there, you can actually have thread lint all the way in there. So you want to be sure that you have the tension releasing pin, and I prefer to take it out so it doesn't come out when I'm inspecting or washing parts. And that is dismantling and removing the tension unit on the 301A. Good job. You did a very good job. Congratulations. Now I'm going to set up and we're going to inspect these parts. Then I'll clean them and then I'll show you how to put them back together. It's pretty much just reverse of what you just watched. And then we'll zero out the tension and check spring tension and set the stroke. So stay tuned. Okay, I have set up here, try to get a background in there so that you can see these parts pretty good, and I'm just going to do the inspection on them. And I always start with the tension post, and this is often damaged. People lose their tension, and sometimes there's a broken spring that causes it, but a lot of times I have found they just never clean their tension unit, and it's gummy and it's got lots of lint in there that prevents the tension disc from closing together all the way on the thread. So they just really start cranking down on it, you know, and what happens is that the opening slot gets uneven or pinched kind of back here, or pinched together at the tip here, and then the thumb nut doesn't make a good contact anymore, and they crank it down even harder. Now this is the one that I bought online as a replacement for Coco, and I'm happy to see that it's really got a uniform opening on the slot, and that the threads on the tip have not been damaged in any way, and the tip hasn't been pinched together. So good luck for me. I'm going to take the tension releasing pin and put it in here a moment to show you. Kind of hard to get it lined up in there. Sometimes I use my little tension screwdriver to push it in, but there we go. So you see it out of the bottom here, and when this is clean, I can bounce that up and it'll fall right down. It's got some varnishing and somehow oil got back in part of it. Shouldn't ever really oil much of the tension unit, but anyway, if it's deformed or damaged, you won't be able to do this. You should be able to turn it like this and tap it, and the pin should just come right out. And this is even a little bit sticky and dirty, and it did it. So that's another way to test it, because sometimes it doesn't take much. And remember the little bar in the center of this that slides on there? What can happen is when it gets pinched in there, this can't move towards the front. And that is what the tension pin does. It pushes on that little bar, and it pushes back against the tension spring to release tension on the tension disc. And that's what happens when you lift the pressure bar. The pressure bar releasing lever pushes on that little pin, which pushes on the tension indicator, which pushes on the spring, which is held in place by the stop washer, releasing pressure on the disc, so the thread will slide right in there. Yay! So sometimes it's hard to even see just looking at it. It's like, oh, that looks pretty good, and when you go to put this on or off, it'll hang up. So if you have one and you're lifting the pressure bar lever, but you're not releasing tension, it could be that the stud is damaged and the tension indicator can't move towards the spring. So this is the tension stud that was on Coco. And what I found when I took it apart was, instead of 2 tension discs, somebody had added a third. And then these parts are like from the tension unit on the 401 class machines that somebody tried to use on this 301. And of course it's not made for that, and they couldn't get any tension, so they added a extra disc. And by the way, the 2 discs that were in there are stuck together so hard I'm going to have to soak them in the crud cutter, I think, to get them to come apart. But at least I have some extra parts here for 301 and a couple of parts for 401, 403. But I want you to see that this has been pinched right like that, just from the discussion I just said. And it's malformed now, and there is a tension releasing pin inside, but it won't come out, because when it gets to this deformed spot, it gets stuck. And I think, let's see, I think I can push it back, maybe. Yeah. So here it is coming out the back end. But I'm not sure it's the right pin, because it comes out a lot farther than the one that I bought. So I was like, let me take that out. And I tried pushing it out like with a toothpick even and stuff, and it's just stuck. So that is a good example. You know, I mean, like, the thread is good, and at first glance it does, you know, you wouldn't think much of it, but the pin won't even come out, even under force. So that's a good clue. And then when you look at it closely, it's crimped or pinched right here. So sometimes it's here, sometimes it's up on the tip, or sometimes both. And the threads can be stripped off. I think this is maybe aluminum. And up to about a couple of years ago, there was a couple sources online that sold this exact stud and the 400 and the 500, but they, every time I look, they're out of stock. So I think their supplier quit making them. So these are getting more and more valuable, so you always want to take care and don't give up on it. What I'm going to do is so put both of these on my flatbed scanner real close, and I'll make a photo and insert it in a moment here. Now, I'm going to refer you to my 6-part series all about tension that I did while I was doing the 404. And a couple parts are different than this, but that series goes into a lot more detail of what I'm doing here. So if you have more questions and stuff, I'll put a link. I'll try and put a link at the end of the video and or in the description below. Okay, so back to this now. This is good. I'm going to put it in my wash strainer. The pin is good. There's no rust, and it's not bent. It's straight. Let's go ahead and look at the black pieces here. This was the tension indicator, the plus minus. And what can go wrong with this, especially if you're working on a machine where this is plastic, is it'll get a crack right in the center where the tension releasing pin pushes on it. And when you look at these, you'll see a dent or some scratching and stuff where that pin has been pushing over the years. And especially the plastic ones, there can be a hairline crack that you don't see, but of course when you reassemble, you don't release tension, because the pin just pushes and the crack opens a little and the pin has nothing to push against. But this one is in excellent shape, and these I believe are aluminum also, so I've never found any rust on the tension indicator or the tension dial. These are both in good shape. Nobody's smashed them from the side, which I've seen, or dented them or anything like that. Sometimes the paint is chipped up, of course, you know. And what I really like about these is the little holes that are used for the thumb nut. That little pin right there, that's how it keeps from turning all the way and loosening it, whereas on the 401 series it has that little tiny screw that screws onto the little shiny chrome collar, and that's what keeps it. This screws on and then sets into a hole, and it's kind of cool because I'll show you later you can make these little tiny adjustments to your tension, and boy is that sweet. You can really fine-tune it to your desire, and you're going to learn how to do that, and you're going to know all about it. So these are ready to be cleaned, and let's look at the check spring. This can be rusty, this can be bent, this can be malformed. You could have the wrong one. This one is got some staining and stuff, but it's very minor, and I'm going to test it, of course, but just holding the big coil firm and flipping the loop, it's nice and snappy, it's nice and flexible, it feels good and tight. And looking at the coil itself, it's even. There's not gaps between the coil from strain or being installed wrong. It looks good. Now you can get these for like $1.50 at some places, like Jenny at So Classic, SEW-Classic. I think she sells these for like $1.50 or something. Of course, you got postage, but some places I've seen them for $5.99, and it looks the same. I don't know what the difference would be other than more profit for the seller, you know. But here is the probably the most important part of the check spring. If I can figure out how to get it. Sorry, my left eye keeps tearing up and it gets a little blurry. There is a tail right here. I call it the spring tail. And it's like the last coil. They came and they made a 90-degree turn into the coil. And I don't know, maybe like the last quarter inch. And what that is for is to sit in between the what I call the gear teeth on the stud, and so like right now it's at 12 o'clock, okay, and that is like a stop for the coil. So when you know when the thread is pulling that up, there is a check to it because there's tension on the coil, because this little tail is in one of those grooves and won't let the spring spin. and that tail can break off. And if it's gone, let me move the tail away from there. If that's gone, come on. Oh, I can't move it that way. Let me move it back this way. If that tail can't get in one of the grooves, it'll just, spin. So on the machine, it might just flop up and down by the thread, but you're going to lose your tension because there's no coil effect. Once it's on there, you get that snappy, springy effect. So watch out for that little tail that tucks in there. And here's something I just thought of. On every original vintage check spring on the machines I've worked on, if the loop in the front is hanging straight down, then that tail on the spring has always been right at about 12 o'clock or maybe 12:30. And on the replacement ones, the tail is down here about 5 o'clock. And the first time I got a replacement, I didn't know that, because I'm used to putting that tail up on the stud at about 12 o'clock, which makes this loop hang down kind of straight, which is what the service guide says to do. So I put the pin up at the top and assembled it. Then when I went to do it, it was like, whoa, this is way off. So that's, if you're rebuilding one on a machine and you see the tail is at 5 instead of 12, it's a replacement, which is okay. Just a little bit of trivia for you. Okay, let's get busy here then. Then this piece of the assembly, I called it the thread guard. It's technically the thread take-up spring thread guard. And I think this is steel. It can be rusty. The guide post that goes into the casting of the machine is often bent or broken off. So you want to look for that. This one looks great. You also want to see if it's been like warped, or if the little thread positioning finger has broken off or been bent. The beehive spring, you can buy replacements. I found a couple cracked right here where the last coil comes around and makes a 90-degree turn horizontal. People call it the boat or the cup, but I've seen it broken off right there, and I've seen it broken off on the big coil about a ½ inch from the end. But that's pretty rare. And this part can get rusty. It's not chrome. And then I've got the cute little stop washer that stops the spring from moving in the front when the pin is pushing on the indicator on the back. And it's got that the original has that little crooked finger instead of the one that goes straight up. And I'll get into what that finger's for. This can get rusty. The finger can get bent or broken, and this is good. It's also got that center bar thing in the middle, just to slide it on the post, you know, to keep it finger up and from turning. Okay, and then this beautiful chromed thumb nut. I don't remember ever having a problem with this, other than it was missing, like on Coco when I got her. And of course you want to see that little pin sticking through up here that goes into the hole in the dial. But I've never had it missing or bent or damaged or anything. So that's about it. I don't remember any rust. Maybe on the threads inside. Here's the 2 tension discs, and I think they call them convex, because they dish outward, or on the sides opposite of where the thread goes, they kind of dish in. And maybe I'm wrong, but I always think of cave as it's caved in on this side and it's pushed out on this side. So of course when you put this on, those 2 parts have to rub against each other. Right? I talked about that. Then you have a space to put the thread. If you put them cupped together, there's no way to get the thread inside. And if you put them opposite each other, there's no way to get the thread inside. And even if you forced it in there, there would be nothing to put tension, because there'd be a little hollow area inside. Right? So that's all the parts, and they look pretty good. I want to wash them. And again, you can refer to the All About Tension series. If you find rust, this is the rust remover that I use. It's made by Rust-Oleum, who makes Crud Cutter, and it's kind of under the Crud Cutter name, The Must for Rust. And it's the only rust remover I've ever used in my life. You know, I live in the Sonoran Desert, and it's dry. I don't get much rust here. Some, but not much. So I happened to see it, and I got it. And it's like $4 or $5 for this 8-ounce size, and well, it doesn't take much on these little parts. You know, you just put some on a Q-tip and go around and rub on the rust a little bit, and it's gone. I think on a rusty spring one time, I just put it in one of those plastic cups and dribbled a little on there and shook it around for a while and let it sit 5 minutes, and it took all the rust off. And there's more about inspection and repair of all this in the All About Tension series. So I sure drug that out for you, didn't I? Okay, I'm going to go clean these like I did the other small parts in part 4. I just want to give a little warning. This paint is different, I think, than what's on the machine itself. And the way I do this is I'm going to give a couple squirts of Crud Cutter, and then I'm going to immediately pick these out and rinse them off. That and the dial. Because I know from experience with a 404, I sprayed them all, and I had some muck, and I was using my toothbrush on some of the other parts. So they had Crud Cutter on them for 3 or 4 minutes, and when I pulled out those pretty bronze dials and indicator, wow, the paint had yellowed, and it was a permanent thing. I mean, I ruined it. So now I just kind of spray it and then rinse it. and that's all it takes. And if you don't want to risk it, just soak all this stuff in alcohol if you want while you're doing something else, you know. But when I get them cleaned, then we're going to come back and we're going to put them all on Coco.
We're going to make it mellow for you now. We're going to make it mellow now.